Hey everybody, it is Chynna from the CW Reads, and today I am going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. I have seen this video a few times throughout BookTube, and I thought this would be the perfect time to do this tag because it is the middle of the year already, which is absolutely crazy. This year has just flown by, but I thought this would be a good time to do this video to share with you guys the books that I have read and fallen in love with. And yeah, so without further ado, let's get straight into the tag. So the first question is, what is the best book that you've read so far in 2018? This was a really hard question to answer because I've read about like 25 books already, and I've read a lot of really good books, but the best book that I think I've read this year is definitely Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertelli. There was just something about this book that really left a heavy impression on me, and I don't normally read contemporary books, and if I do, it's usually adult contemporary. So this was the first like YA contemporary that I've read in a really long time, and I've heard amazing things about it, and I just immediately fell in love with it. I loved all the characters and just the storyline, and it was just a really amazing book. If you don't know, Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda is about a gay teen, but he hasn't come out to his family or to his friends yet, and then suddenly that truth might come out because he is being blackmailed by someone in his school, and if he doesn't like make this promise to this person, then that person will leak out all these emails that he has been sending with this guy named Blue. And this guy on the internet named Blue, Simon has fallen head over heels with, and he doesn't know who he is, but he thinks he is someone that goes to his school. So yeah, I really love Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda, and really want to get more into Becky Albertelli's books because I love her writing style and mainly her characters. So yeah, that has been the best book I've read so far in 2018. Question number 2 is, what is the best sequel you've read in 2018? The best sequel that I have read in 2018 is Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I read Six of Crows in November, and I just finished Crooked Kingdom last year, and I absolutely fell in love with the sequel. If you have read any of my blog posts, you know that I wasn't really totally in love with Six of Crows. I mean, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it, but there are a lot of things that bothered me about it. But all those things that bothered me about the first book kind of just washed away and just made Crooked Kingdom even better. And I feel like Leigh Bardugo's writing developed more in the story, and that is the main reason why I really loved it. So because we got more development of the characters, and I just fell in love with these characters even more, along with the world and everything about this book. I just really love. I am currently reading the Shadow and Bone trilogy, which I am really liking so far as well, and that is actually the series that she wrote before this duology, and I'm just really excited to get more into the world of the Grisha universe. Yeah, so if you don't know already, what you probably do, this is a pretty popular book in the BookTube community. Six of Crows follows a cast of characters who are brought together by a man named Kaz Brecker, and he is on a mission to perform a heist with these characters to gain, I think he is trying to get like 3 million Kurush, which is the currency in Ketterdam, and just a lot of stuff unfolds, but that is the basic plotline of this book. But there's just so much more about this book that just had me fall head over heels in love with it. These characters are just so flawed, and just they have so much depth to them, and it is definitely a character-driven book, which are books that I absolutely love, and I'm just so happy that I finally finished it, and this is hands down like the best sequel I've read this year. Question 3 is a new release you haven't read but really want to. There are a lot of new releases that I have seen that I really want to read, but one that really is like at the top of my TBR is Circe by Madeline Miller. And then this is a mythology inspired book, and I honestly don't know like a whole lot about this book, but I love anything dealing with mythology, and I think this book would be like the perfect summer read because I just love reading mythology, like ancient Greek mythology in the summertime, and Greek mythology is a huge passion of mine. I loved it when I was super young, and I've just always been intrigued and interested by those stories. And Madeline Miller also wrote a book about Troy, and that is another one I really want to read by her. But this one I've just seen circling around, and it just sounds really awesome, and the cover is absolutely gorgeous. Like, I really need to buy it just for the cover. But yeah, that is one book that I really want to read, like, soon. Question 4 is your most anticipated new release for the next half of 2018. One of my all-time favorite authors who I've discovered because of YouTube is Victoria Schwab, and she is coming out with the second book of the Vicious series, and I read this book in January, and the second book of this series is coming out in, I believe, October, and it is called Vengeful. And no one really thought that she was going to be writing a second book to this series, so I'm really happy that I read it this year, so I didn't have to be one of those people that read it a long time ago, not thinking that this was going to be a duology. And I'm just really excited for it, although they did change the covers, and I'm really sad because I really liked this cover. The second book that I get is not going to match this one, which I'm really sad about, but you know, we can't all win with cover changes and everything. But this book basically follows Victor and Eli, and they are college students, and they come up with, or Eli comes up with a thesis basically discovering that like adrenaline, near-death experiences, and supernatural events can lead to the possibility of extraordinary abilities. And he kind of tests this theory out. He actually develops his own powers from it, and it is just a super interesting superhero story, and it's actually more of an anti-hero villain story, which I feel like you don't really see often in superhero stories. And this is an adult book. The main reason why I love this series was because of the characters and just the idea of how they came up with these extraordinary abilities was like extremely well crafted, and just Victoria Schwab can like do no wrong in my book. Like, one of my favorite series that I've read within the last couple of years is the Darkest Shade of Magic series, and I'm just really excited for more from the Schwab. Question 5 is, what has been your biggest disappointment of so far in 2018? My biggest disappointment is probably an unpopular opinion, but that is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This is actually the Owlcrate exclusive cover. I did get this from Owlcrate, and I was really excited to read it because so many people were talking about it and hyping it up, and so like there were so many good reviews on it, and I really wanted to try out Holly Black because she is very well known for her fae books, and I really love fairies mainly because of Court and Thorns and Roses series, so I really wanted to get into more fairy books, and Holly Black is like the queen of fairies. But when I read this book, I was super disappointed. Like, I just really didn't care for the characters or the plot line, so it just really dragged. I was honestly like speeding through it just to get it through it, and because I don't normally like to DNF books unless I'm like really hating this book. I have heard that the second book in the series is actually really good, but I'm still not sure if I'll continue on with the series just because I really just didn't like the characters. And especially Prince Carden, he was just like obviously a cruel prince, but like the things that he did to our main character Jude were just like, they made me cringe like so hard, and I was like asking why Jude was like liking this guy, and it was just really not my type of book. Yeah, basically this book is about our main character Jude, and she is from the human world and kind of gets sucked into the fae world, and she meets the royalty of this fae world, and they are really cruel and just extremely bad seeds, and they really hate humans, so like that was just really hard for me to read. And yeah, I was just super disappointed because it was such a really hyped book, and just not my cup of tea. So question 6 is, what has been your biggest surprise of so far in 2018? And my biggest surprise was The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert, and I was really surprised by this book because I have heard so many like negative reviews on it and not really a lot of like rave reviews, but this was like a book that I knew I would love because it mainly focuses on these fairy tales our main character's grandma wrote and was really famous for, and she kind of had like a cult following. And then one time her mom goes missing and she is kind of like sucked into these fairy tales and realizes that they're more than just fairy tales, and it just really sounded something like I would love, because I love like Grimm fairy tales, and Once Upon a Time used to be like one of my favorite shows, and there were a lot of similarities to Once Upon a Time and The Hazelwood. But yeah, this was just a really big surprise to me because I had heard so many negative reviews, but I actually really liked it. I really liked the world of The Hazelwood and like all these fairy tales, and thought it was just like a different book that I have read so far, and I'm really excited to get into this trilogy. Question 8 is, who has been your favorite author so far in 2018? So I want to say V. Schwab, but I actually started reading her books last year, so the newest author that I have fallen in love with is actually Maggie Stiefvater, who writes the Raven Cycle series, and I started reading the first book in January, and then I continued straight into The Dream Thieves. I still haven't read Blue Lily, Lily Blue, but I just immediately fell in love with Maggie Stiefvater's writing. It is so descriptive and so atmospheric and very lush, and I just feel like I'm being sucked into this world that she has created. And once I finish the series, I definitely want to get more into her other books. Like, I think the next one I want to start reading would be The Scorpion Races. She says that's her favorite book that she's ever written. And yeah, I just really loved her writing style because it's very lyrical, and I feel like while her plot line is very like YA focused, I feel like her writing style is very adult, like very descriptive, and just that's like the writing style that I really love to read. And yeah, so I'm really excited to get more into Maggie Stiefvater's novels. Question 8 is your newest fictional crush, which is kind of a funny question. This was really hard because I was going back and forth between two people, but I would definitely have to say that my newest crush is Thomas Cresswell from Stalking Jack the Ripper. He is the main male character in the Stalking Jack the Ripper trilogy, and I just fell in love with him. He's very like mysterious, but also very supportive of Audrey Rose, which I really love, and he is just super witty and like nerdy and just has all these qualities that I really am drawn to, and I just easily fell in love with him. And he's also like very romantic, but it's like not overly romantic because this is set in like the 18th century, and romance is very different back then than how it is now. It's very subtle and very like gentlemanly, and I've fallen in love with Thomas Cresswell and can't wait till the third book of this series, which is called Escaping from Houdini, and I'm just super excited for that book to come out. Question 9 is your newest fictional character, and once again this was a really tough question because I have read so many books this year, and a lot of like I've fallen in love with so many characters, but one character that really stands out to me is Scythe Faraday from Scythe by Neil Shusterman. Scythe is about a world where there is no hunger, no disease, no war, no misery, and basically everything negative doesn't exist. Their population has vastly increased, and so they have these people called Scythes to perform the killing. This was such a cool dystopian novel, and one of the main Scythes in this book is Scythe Faraday, and he is appointed to these two children as like an apprentice sort of thing. I just really like his way of how he killed people, which is kind of weird to say. He paid his respects after performing the gleanings of these people and by going to the funerals of the people he has gleaned. And I just thought that was very human of him in a world where humanity has kind of been faltered. And he was really funny also, but he was also a very good teacher to Citra and Rowan. And I just really liked his teachings and his thoughts on, you know, being a scythe and this world that they're living in. And he was one of my favorite characters in this book. And yeah, so I'm hoping to get to the second book of Thunderhead because there was a big reveal in the first book that I just really want to know more about. Okay, question 10 is a book that made you cry. And I actually don't have a book that made me cry this year. Definitely 2017 there are some books that made me cry, but I haven't read a book yet that really physically made me cry. I've definitely had like sad feelings during some books, but I haven't read a book yet that physically made me cry, so I don't have an answer to this question. The next question is a book that made you happy, and I have to go back to Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda. I just really loved Simon as a character. He was very funny. There are things about his life that really like related to my life certain ways. For instance, he would have these like bachelor nights with his family, and I loved watching The Bachelor. His sister's reaction were really funny. This book made me smile in so many ways, and I really, really loved it. That has been the one book that truly like made me happy because I read like a lot of dark fantasies, and so that was kind of a nice break to read a contemporary. Okay. The next question is the most beautiful book that you have purchased so far this year. And that definitely has to go to Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. When I first saw this book, I knew I had to get it, even with reading the synopsis, and I normally have to read the synopsis before I buy something, but this cover was just so different from anything I've seen before. I mean, it's kind of refreshing to see like a woman of color on the face of a YA novel, because in the past that didn't really happen a whole lot if they were to have a person on the cover. And I'm usually not drawn to books that have people on the cover, but this one is so detailed, and I like that it's not so realistic. Like, they use a lot of Photoshop in this picture. There's so much depth to it, and you want to know who this character is and like why she had this huge white-haired crown. This book is just so beautiful. Like, even on the back there's gold writing, and like this symbol in the back is just beautiful. And on the inside it's even more beautiful. This is the Barnes & Noble's exclusive edition, so I don't think that the cover is red. I think the actual like original cover of the Under the Dust Jacket was black. Yeah, this symbol is like super interesting. Also, it has a really pretty map too, and I love books with maps and everything, so this is definitely hands down the most beautiful cover I have purchased this year. I have purchased a lot of books with beautiful covers, but this one definitely stands out to me. So question 13 is, which books do you need to read by the end of the year? I don't really set a lot of TBRs, so none of these books are books that I need to read, but they are definitely books that I want to read by the end of the year. The Ember and the Ashes series, because the third book is actually coming out, I believe it either has already come out or it comes out next month. I will double check in that and put it down in the description box below. But I know this book heavily focuses on a Roman political empire, and the Roman history really intrigues me because I did live in Italy for 4 months, and I've just been so interested in learning more about Roman history and like anything that is inspired by Roman history. So this definitely seems like an interesting fantasy that I really want to read soon, so that I can just marathon the 3 books that are out, because I believe this is going to be a quartet. Once the third book comes out, I can like quickly marathon it, but I will have to wait a whole year before the 4th book. The series that I want to finish is the Core Thorns and Roses series. I have read A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury, but it kind of took me out of the world a little bit because A Court of Mist and Fury was so long. But I really want to finish this series by the end of the year because the novella A Court of Frost and Starlight recently came out, and I really want to read that because it kind of leads into the next series set within this world. We will be following different characters, but it is set in the same fairy world and follows characters from this book, but not our main characters. So I really want to see how this concludes and continue later on. The last series that I want to finish is Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. I really want to finish this year because I also want to get into more of Neil Shusterman's other books, and because I've fallen in love with his writing style, and I really want to read his older books because they sound really interesting to me, and he seems to have this like theme of like death, which is really dark and interesting, but books that I like to read. So I really want to finish Thunderhead because I fell in love with Scythe so much. So I'm hoping to get to this one soon so that I can read more of Neil Shusterman's other novels. The last and final question before I close out this video is who have been your favorite book community members of 2018? So I follow a lot of booktubers, but there are 3 that really stand out to me and that really got me interested in actually starting my own booktube channel. And them are pretty major in the booktube community. That is Haley from Haley in Bookland and G from Book Roast. I feel like they have a lot of like creative videos that really inspired me to start my own channel, and I feel like they read a lot of books that I like to read, so they really stand out to me. But also, like a smaller channel that I've been getting into recently is Read Between the Line. I love her channel. She is like so sassy, just like doesn't hide her feelings about things. Like if she doesn't like a book, she'll tell you why she doesn't like it, and she just like tells the truth, which I really love. And she's just like a little firecracker, and while we don't really read the same type of books, I really like how she presents herself on camera, and I love her. I just love her channel name, Read Between the Wine, because you know, I like wine and she likes wine, and it's funny because she actually like drinks wine in her videos, and it's just, I just love everything about her. And so I kind of wanted to put a smaller channel in this list. So if you are interested in following those people, I will link their channels down below. So that concludes the mid-year book freakout tag. I had a really fun time with this tag, and I thought it was really fun to kind of reflect on the books that I have read so far. And I'm looking forward to all the books that I read in the second half. And let me know down in the comments what have been your favorite books that you've read this year, and what have been your least favorite books that you've read this year. If you want to follow all of my social media handles, I will have them all linked down below to keep you all updated on what I'm currently reading and all of that. Also, I will link my blog down below because that is where I normally post my reviews and my wrap-ups and stuff like that. So yeah, I will link that down below, and that is it. So ta-ta for now, and happy reading. Bye!